Welcome to this video on problem recognition. Problem recognition is the first step in the process of consumer buying decision. In this video, you will learn about the mechanism of problem recognition, and in this you will learn what is the actual to desire gap and then how to increase this actual to desire gap for problem recognition. We will learn this with real advertisements of Vim cleaning gel, Google Flights, Chupa Chups sugar-free lollipops, and HP Never Stop laser printer. In problem recognition, a consumer recognizes that consumer wants to go to a new state. Let's call this state as wanted state from her current state. Let us call this current state as the present state, which means unless a consumer really recognizes that he or she wants to go from his or her present state to a wanted state, a consumer will not initiate the process of buying. So that is why this is called as the first step in consumer decision making process. This gap is actually between the present state and the wanted state of the consumer, and unless a consumer recognizes that there is a problem in his or her way of living life, a consumer will not really start consumer decision making process. In pictorial form, we can depict it like this: that there is a present state from which consumer wants to go to a wanted state, and this gap between present state and the wanted state is called as actual to desire gap. Therefore, problem recognition can only initiate if the wanted state is attainable, which means if this actual to desire gap is too much, consumer may feel that her present state is too far from her wanted state, which means the gap is too large. When the gap is too large, consumer may not really want to close this gap, or consumer may not be capable of filling this gap by buying any product or service. And in this case, the consumer may actually not buy anything. That means problem recognition will not initiate. Second condition for problem recognition to occur is that this actual to desire gap is substantial. What this means is that this gap should not be too small. Okay, we will just see it in the next slide how it really works out. We'll discuss an example to really understand this. This is what we were discussing, that if the gap between present and wanted state is too small, then problem recognition will not initiate. Similarly, if the actual to desire gap is very large, even then the problem recognition will not happen. Let us understand this with an example of a bank loan. Let us think that a consumer wants to take a loan from a bank for USD 90,000. Okay? If the consumer already has USD 85,000, this gap of 5,000 USD is too small that a consumer will really approach a bank for this smaller loan. Consumer may really get this much amount from some other sources and may not really work with the bank for this. If the consumer currently has only USD 10,000, and if a consumer wants USD 200,000, in that case this actual to desire gap becomes very large. And when this gap becomes very large, again the problem recognition will not happen. That means again here in this case, consumer will not really approach a bank for really getting this much of loan amount, considering the present state of his finances. So this means now that we know that problem recognition cannot happen if the actual to desire gap is very small or if it is very large. Let us understand when will this actually begin. So problem recognition will begin if we can emphasize the needs of the consumer so that the consumer's perception of the present state reduces. This means, in a way, our actual to desire gap will increase and this will become substantial so that the consumer will really buy something. Second method is by creating wants. So, when we actually create wants in the consumer's mind, in that case, the new wanted state is a little higher, okay, which again means that our actual to desire gap increases. There is another way, and in this third way, we emphasize needs and we create wants together, which means an increased actual to desire gap in this particular case also. We will discuss this with different examples now. Let's discuss this example for emphasizing needs, where we will try and create needs for the consumer so that consumer's perception of the present state becomes lower than what the consumer really thinks. Let's consider an example for this. Now, in this example of Vim cleaning gel, consumer may not really think twice before using any antiseptic gel for cleaning utensils. But in this particular advertisement, the marketer is actually emphasizing that for your child's tiffin, would you want to have a harsh antiseptic? And in the fine print, they actually say an antiseptic is generally used in cleaning wounds and cleaning floors. So, this actually reduces the perception of the present state in the minds of the consumer. So, this is where they actually emphasize that instead of a harsh antiseptic, consumers should actually use power of 100 lemons, and for which a consumer should not have any doubts in using any natural cleaning agent. So this shows that this actual to desire gap has increased now, and when this gap increases, then the problem recognition happens. Let us take second example of creating wants. For creating wants, we have to create a new wanted state. So again, when our new wanted state is higher than the consumer's current perception, what happens is that the actual to desire gap again increases. Let us take this with another example of Google Flights. In Google Flights, you can actually go to new destinations without really burning a hole in your pockets, and that creates a new wanted state and it increases the actual to desired gap in the minds of the consumer. Let's understand this with another example of Chupa Chups sugar free lollipops. In this particular ad, marketer is actually showing that these are the ants which are actually going, and even though this Chupa Chups lollipop was there in the way of ants, but ants actually changed their course. So this emphasizes that ants do not really taste Chupa Chups lollipop. Why? Because it doesn't contain any sugar. This is what they actually emphasize in the fine print, that it's actually sugar free. So which means a parent can actually buy Chupa Chups lollipops for their children without really worrying about increased sugar intake by the children. So in this way, the ad is trying to create a new wanted state, a higher wanted state, so that this actual to desire gap actually increases. Let us understand the third way where we emphasize needs and create wants together. In this case, a marketer actually lowers the perception of the present state as well as increases the perception of the wanted state together. So this is done in a very recent advertisement of HP non-stop laser printer, in which they are actually emphasizing that you that if the toner level is low, why should you really stop your work? You can quickly restore the toner levels in 15 seconds, mess free, self reload, which means you don't really have to go to a mechanic to really reload your toner, which means you don't have to really stop your work, which means they're actually trying to show that currently, whenever the toner levels go low, you actually have to go to the mechanic. So the perception of the present state actually gets lower, because here the marketer is showing that with HP never stop laser printer, you don't have to really do that. And then they're showing that the new wanted state is that this is the first laser tank printer where you already have a toner reload kit. A new wanted state where you can really work non-stop even if your toner level goes down. And the ad increases the actual to desired gap, and in a way problem recognition happens. By the way, the actual ad did not really have this particular line. The actual ad was like this. So just one, I added one line just for the emphasis. Let's understand what we have learned in this particular video. We have understood the mechanism of problem recognition, which is the first step in buying process. We have also understood the actual to desired gap, which is the gap between the present state of the consumer and the wanted state of the consumer. We have also learned the importance of actual to desired gap for problem recognition, and we have learned three ways how problem recognition occurs by increasing actual to desired gap. These three ways are: one is by emphasizing needs, second is by creating wants, and third is by emphasizing needs and creating wants together. I hope you enjoyed this video and you have learned more about the problem recognition. Have a good day.